Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This is the first news, 11th February newspaper, front page long. No death penalty for inmates with a mental ailment, Supreme Court. Says not every mental illness shall automatically qualify for exemption. Commutes the death penalty up to death row prisoners on principle of life expectancy. Orders replacing terms unsoundness of mind and lunatic with mental illness or mental disorder in BPC, CRPC, and the prison rules. Rights organizations, the term verdict historic by Aji Ahmad Sheikh. Lahore, in a verdict held by rights organizations, the Supreme Court has ruled out a condemned prisoner if found due to mental illness unable to comprehend the reasons behind his her punishment qualifies for an exemption from the execution of death sentence. We hold that if a condemned prisoner due to mental illness is found to be unable to comprehend the rationale and reason behind his her punishment, then carrying out the death sentence will not meet the ends of justice, said a 51-page judgment announced by a five-judge Supreme Court bench at the Lahore Registry on Wednesday. The judgment, however, clarified that not every mental illness shall automatically qualify for an exemption from carrying out the death sentence. This exemption will be applicable only in a case where a medical board comprising mental health professionals certifies after a thorough examination and evaluation that the condemned prisoner no longer has the higher mental functions to appreciate the rationale and reasons behind the sentence of death awarded to him or to determine whether a condemned prisoner suffers from such a mental illness, the verdict said the federal and each provincial government shall constitute and notify a medical board comprising qualified psychiatrists and psychologists from public sector hospitals. Authored by Justice Mansoor Ahmad Malik, the judgment came on three appeals pertaining to as many mentally ill condemned prisoners, including Kaniza Bibi, Imdad Ali, and Ghulam Abbas, who have respectively spent 30, 18, and 14 years on death row while exhibiting acute symptoms of the illness. The Supreme Court bench commuted the death penalty of Imdad Ali and Kanizam Bibi into the imprisonment not on the ground of mental illness, but on the principle of legitimate expectancy of life recently considered by the Apex Court in the case titled Sikandar Hayat and another versus the state PRD 2020. However, in view of the medical opinions regarding the mental health condition of the convicts, the bench directed the Punjab government to immediately shift them from prison to Punjab Institute of Mental Health, Lahore, for treatment and rehabilitation. It ruled out the convicts on the completion of their sentence shall be examined afresh by a medical board and shall be released from the hospital as and when the board opens. Board opens and they are this both opinions they are fit for themselves and for society. About Ghulam Abbas, the bench directed the prison officials to file a fresh mercy petition for the third time before the president, mentioning the plea of mental illness taken by him along with his entire medical history record, a report of a medical board and a copy of this judgment. We expect that the mercy petition filed on behalf of condemned prisoner Ghulam Abbas shall be disposed of after taking into consideration all the circumstances, including the observations made by this court in the instant judgment, stated the verdict. The bench ordered the government to also shift Abbas until disposal of his mercy petition to Punjab Institute of Mental Health in accordance with provisions of prison rules for his treatment and rehabilitation. It further directed the federal and provincial governments to immediately make necessary amendments to the relevant laws and the prison rules so as to bring jail manuals of the provinces in harmony. The Apex Code noted that the evolution of medical science and the human rights had sensitized society to stigmatic labels such as unsound mind, lunatic, and insane, and the latest legislations all over the world did not use such terms. Therefore, we consider it appropriate and to direct that the terms unsoundness of mind and unsound mind occurring in a PPC, CRPC, and the present rules be submitted with the term mental disorder or mental illness, the term lunatic, whereas occurs shall also be substituted appropriately, said the ruling. The Supreme Court bench directed that the terms unsoundness of mind and lunatic be replaced wherever they occur in the Pakistan Penal Code (PPC), Code of Criminal Procedure (CRPC), and the prison rules with sensitized and updated language such as mental illness or mental disorder. The federal and provincial governments have been directed to establish, create high security forensic mental health facilities in the teaching and training institutions of mental health for assessment, treatment, and rehabilitation of the under trial prisoners and the convicts who have developed open mental ailments during their incarceration. They have also been directed to immediately constitute and notify a medical board comprising the three qualified and experienced psychiatrists and psychologists from public sector hospitals for examination and evaluation of the condemned prisoners suffering from mental illness to ensure that such mentally ill inmates who no longer have the higher mental functions to appreciate the rationale and reasons behind the sentence of death awarded to them are not executed. The governments have been ordered to constitute another medical board at each divisional headquarters of the provinces for examination, assessment, and rehabilitation of the prisoners that is under trial and convicts if referred by the jail authorities. The federal and provincial authorities shall immediately launch training programs and short certificate courses or on forensic mental health assessment for psychiatrists, clinical psychologists, social workers, police, and the prison personnel, said the ruling. The judgment requires the Federal Judicial Academy Islamabad and all the provincial judicial academies to arrange courses for trial court judges, prosecutors, lawyers, and a court staff on a mental illness, including forensic mental health assessment. Other members of the bench were Justice Sardar Tariq Masood, Justice Ijazul Ahsan, Justice Mazhar Alam Khan, Main Khail, Mia Khail, and Justice Syed Mansoor Ali Shah. The Federation and provinces had argued before the Apex Court that mentally ill persons should neither be handed down death penalty nor executed. Professor Dr. Mowaddad Hossain Rana and advocate Heather Rasul Mirza had assisted the court as amicus curiae. Amicus curiae conveyed a theoretical and legal expertise. They had a similar opinion that mentally ill prisoners should not be executed and instead shifted to a psychiatric facility where they could be treated with psychotropic medications and psychological interventions. Meanwhile, Barrister Sara Bilal, Executive Director of Justice Project Pakistan, on an organization working for prisoners' rights, termed the judgment historic that validated her decades-long struggle to get the courts to recognize mental illness as mitigating circumstances against the imposition of the death penalty. The Human Rights Commission of Pakistan also welcomed the verdict for recognizing that the prisoners with a mental illness were among the most vulnerable and could not, in a good conscience, be executed. And in the end, the formal request, if you have not yet, please subscribe our channel and press the like and bell button to get the fresh from us. Thank you for watching. Have a nice time and goodbye.